Alright, so today you guys are going to be talking about our last section, which is systems of linear inequalities. Please write today's title and today's objective. And then you also do have a warm-up today. Just because I'm not there does not mean that we just sit around and don't do anything. So you guys have a test that will be next week. There will be a study guide video coming up by Friday. So be on YouTube for that, because all of that will be due on Tuesday. I will probably be stopping in sometime around this class period. Don't know exactly when. But please pause the video and do this warm-up right now, please. So pause this video and allow for about 5 minutes for the warm-up. Okay, so you should have read the objective. The objective is that you guys will graph and determine the solutions to a systems of linear inequality. First of all, an inequality is things that are greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, or less than or equal to. Okay, so we're going to be graphing these now, and they're going to be systems of them. All right. In order to receive full credit for your notes, you do need to have your warm-up on this paper. Okay. You should have this paper in front of you right now. If you do not have this piece of paper, please pause this video and grab these papers now. All right. Okay, so in front of you guys is a little cheat sheet on how to graph a linear inequality. Okay, so we're going to work on these together, the first side, and then you guys are going to do the other side by yourself. Okay, all right, so the first step is to get y by itself. And the reason we're going to get y by itself is to get it in y equals mx plus b form. Okay, for those of you guys that remember, this form is called slope intercept form. Okay, we should all know that. That is not something that's brand new. I've taught you guys this. You guys should have learned this in middle school. Okay, alright, so we're trying to get y by itself. We're going to get y all by itself in order to get it in slope intercept form. There will be a question on the test that says get this in slope intercept form. They will not say get it in y equals mx plus b form, because that form, there's a name for it. Okay. All right, number 2, we are going to graph using the slope. So using slope and the y-intercept. We should all be paying attention. The slope is the one always attached to the x. So my slope is m, my y-intercept is b. And remember, my starting point is my y-intercept. So my slope is always attached to the x. My y-intercept is my starting point, and it's the one not attached. I'm going to say that one more time because we really need to know that. My slope is always attached to x. My y-intercept is by itself. Okay, and that's my starting point. The third step is to determine if it's a solid or dashed line. Okay, so is my line going to be solid or is it going to be dashed? Okay, and I'll show you how we figure that out. The next part is to shade. This was always my favorite part, is to shade it up. Okay. The most important part about this is the overlapped area is the solution. Okay, and it'll make sense at the end. Any part that is overlapped is the answer to the solution, to my system. All right. Okay. So how do I determine if it's a solid or a dashed? So solid lines are inequality signs that have the equal to sign underneath it. So if it has an equal to sign underneath it, it is a solid line. It's a dashed line if it's the opposite, if it's written like this. Okay, no underline under it. Okay, now how do I know if I shade above or below? So the way you know if you shade above is if you have any greater than problems and any greater than symbols like this or like this. That is when you shade above. You shade below when you are less than. Again, we should all be paying attention. Okay, so less than signs we shade below, greater than signs we shade above. Okay, so these are little cheats on what to do and how to graph them. Alright, so let's work on example 1 and let's go through our first, second, third, and fourth step. So the first step is to get y by itself. So currently, I do not have y by itself. Currently, I have 2x here and I have a negative 3 here. So I need to get rid of that because I want to get y by itself. So currently, how would I get this 2x to this side? How do I do that? Well, I use inverse operation. So what kind of 2 is this? It's a positive. So what's the inverse? A negative. So if I want to move this whole thing, I move it over by doing the inverse. These 2x's will cross out. I can then drop down my negative 3y. I drop down my inequality sign. Now is 12 and negative 2x like terms? They are not, so I can't do anything. So I just do 12 minus 2x. Notice I didn't combine them. I just moved it to the side. Now the last step, how do I get rid of this negative 3? Well, since they're right next to each other, that means they are multiplying. So the inverse is division. So divide everything by negative 3. Okay, these negative 3's will cross out. I put a y here. What happens when I divide by a negative? My sign flips. So I move it this way. Again, when I multiply or divide by a negative, I flip my sign. So 12 divided by negative 3 is negative 4. Negative 2 divided by negative 3. Well, I can't do anything. It doesn't give me an even number. So I just leave it positive 2 over 3x. Now it's positive because a negative and negative make it a positive. So it's a positive 2 over 3. Remember that your slope is always attached to the variable. And the way we use slope is rise over run. So we want it as a fraction. Okay, so part 1 is done. Let's do part 2. We can graph using the slope and the y-intercept. So let's use my slope and my y-intercept. And let's start with negative 4. Okay, I start with negative 4 because that's my y-intercept. So this is x, this is y. So put a dot at negative 4 on the y-axis. 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's right here. Then I use my slope to rise and run. So I go up to 1, 2 over 3. 1, 2, 3. Keep going. Up to 1, 2 over 3. 1, 2, and 3. On these ones, I want you to go until you can't go anymore. So go up to 1, 2, 1, 2, and 3, and I can't go anymore. So leave it right there. And remember, you always run to the right. Always, always run to the right. Alright, now I got to go the opposite way. So instead of going up 2, I'm going to go down. 1, 2, and over to the left this time. 1, 2, 3. Go down 2, 1, 2, over to the left 3. 1, 2, and 3. One more time. Down 2, over 3. 1, 2, and 3. Alright, so now that I graphed this, I can cross that one out. Step 3 says to do a solid or a dashed line. So how do I determine if it's a solid or dashed? I look right here. This is a greater than sign, greater than signs are dashed because there's no line underneath it. So I do some dashes and I draw this like that. Okay, they do not have to be perfect as long as I can tell that they are dashed. Okay, so step 3 is done. Step 4 is to shade. So which way do I shade? Do I shade up or do I shade down? Well, it's a greater than sign and it says to shade above. So you grab your marker or your pencil, and just start coloring this in. Start shading it up. And this was always something that was fun for me. Okay, in a math class at least. Alright, so you shade that. Everything that you guys are shading right now is an answer. So all of this that is shaded is an answer. Okay, now when I do 2 of them, a good suggestion to do is use different colors. So that way you can determine which one is the blue, which one is green, and where do they overlap. Where they overlapped is the solution. Overlapped is the solution. Alright, I'm going to do one more with you guys and then that is it. So let's move on to this problem. Okay. First step is to rearrange each inequality so y is by itself, which is what we just did. Graph inequalities on the same coordinate planes. And then the sections where the graphs overlap represent the solutions, just what we talked about. So this first one, I'm going to do blue. Alright, I need to get what by itself? I need to get y by itself. So what's on the same side as y? 3x. So what kind of 3 is this? It's a negative. So I need to do the opposite, which is a positive 3x. Okay, my 3x's will cross out. I can drop down my y. Drop down the inequality sign. These are not like terms. So I just write it right next to it. 2 plus 3x. Okay, currently is y by itself. Yes, so now I can graph this. I start at the one without the variable. The one without the variable is 2, so start at 2 on the y-axis. Again, we should all be paying attention to this right now. Now I go up 3 and over 1. So go up 3, 1, 2, 3, over 1. Keep going. Up 3, 1, 2, 3, over 1. 1, 2, 3, over 1. Okay, if I wanted it on the opposite, I go down 3. 1, 2, 3, over to the left 1. Remember, when you go the opposite, you go the opposite directions. So go down 3. 1, 2, 3, over 1 to the left. 1, 2, 3, over to the left. Alright, so step 1 and step 2 are done. Let's do step 3. Step 3 tells me, is it a solid or a dashed line? This is a greater than sign, which means there's no equal to, so it's a dashed line. Okay. Now, step 4 is to shade. So it is a greater than sign, which means I'm going to shade above. Now above would be this right here. Alright. And last but not least is the next one. I'm going to make this one, let's make this one red. Okay. The first step, we're going to do this all over again, is to get y by itself. How do I get y by itself? Well, there's only a 3 attached to it, so I got to divide everything by 3. These 3's will cross out. I can drop down my y, drop down your inequality. Does negative 2 go into 3? Can I divide those? No, so I just leave it negative 2 over 3x. Alright. So now negative 6 divided by 3 is negative 2. So where do I start this line? I started at negative 2 because that's the one without the variable on the y-axis. So started at negative 2. And this one says to go down 2 over 3. So go down 2, 1, 2, over to the right 3, 1, 2, and 3. Go down 2, 1, 2, over to the right 3, 1, 2, and 3. Keep doing that. Go down 2, 1, 2, over to the right 3, and there we go. Now if I want a dot on the other side, I go up 2, 1, 2, over to the left 3, 1, 2, and 3. Go up 2, 1, 2, over to the left 3, 1, 2, and 3. One more. Up 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and 3. Now this one, is it a solid or a dashed? Well, since there's a line underneath it, it is a solid line. And there we go. Now I need to determine, do I shade above or shade below? So it's a less than sign. It's a less than or equal to, which means I shade below. So that is this direction. Okay. Notice that they intersect, and I'm going to highlight where they intersect. So all of this area, yellow, is the solution to this problem. It is where both of my lines, both of my shaded areas intersect. Okay? The blue area is only for the blue answers. The red area is only for the red answers. So, when I ask you, is 5 and 1 a solution? Let's look. Remember, x goes first and y goes second. So find 5 and 1. So this is 5. If I go up to 1, notice how this area is white? That means it's no solution. Okay? But negative 10 and negative 1 is a solution to this problem. Alright? Okay, the rest of this is on you. Do not do this problem down here. So you can cross that one out. And you're done. I will stop by sometime today and make sure that you guys are on task. Okay?